Okay, this is a short little video. I wanted to show how to do this diamond pattern and kind of approach it sort of with this like creating the pattern first, but then also you're rubbing away the outer part. So you're rubbing these guys down and maybe smoothing them out a bit. So what I can do is I'm just going to come down here. I have this material here. I just got this rubber base. I have an anchor point layer where I'm just literally just putting in some damage that I'm going to use later for my height. So that's what's being used to like subtract from my height. And then I also have my diamonds layer, which is the thing that's actually pushing the surface up, right? So on this diamonds layer, all I've really done is I've just come in here and we'll just go ahead and hide these down. So I created a brick generator. So that's found underneath here. I just probably search for brick generator. I dragged it onto here. I set the main setting that I played with for the brick generator is bevel. So I just increased the bevel. We could play around a little bit with changing the shape a bit, but for the most part, I just beveled it, rotated it 90 degrees. So I just came over to, where is that at? Rotation bricks. So this is how many bricks. So I just kept that equal so I can get square shapes. Oh, and I just rotated it up here. Okay, so I rotated up there. And I don't think I really played with anything else. I played around a little bit with the gap if you wanted to have like a spacer between it. Then what I did is I put an anchor point. So I'm going to use this later on. Potentially, actually, I don't know if I use it. Yeah, I do. I think we'll find out. And then, so here we have it here. I'm going to go ahead and disable the rubber effect just so we can take a look at this. And so one of the things I did was I went ahead and hid everything else. I'm trying to contain it to a certain area. So if I took a look at this layer, you can see this layer right here is just filling all that with black. I just did that by, creating a paint layer. We'll just do it again right here. So we'll add paint. I'm going to go to perspective view. Oh, sorry. And then I'm going to change this to orthographic view. Sorry, not perspective view. I switched to flood fill. And then I'm just going to polyfill, and I'm going to go ahead and fill polygons with black. I click and drag. So we're just going to click and drag like that. Okay. And just view my handiwork. It looks okay. It's a little off. I do have orthographic on. Okay, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it should be fine, but we're going to go ahead and Control Z that back. I'm just going to go ahead and get everything out to here. Then what I did, I don't think this is perfectly squared off in terms of orientation. So I was getting like a little bit of a weird lip. So then what I did was I just used a curvature map to grab that edge to add it to the selection. So here's the paint map and here's the curvature map. And so here's what the curvature map looks like without that mask that I drew there. So it just adjusted the curvature so that I could just grab those corners and nothing else. All right. This was really, really sharp. So one of the things I did was blur it. So that just kind of blunted the shape a little bit and gave it a little bit of softness. And then to do my damage effect, what I did was I had created this paint layer that has nothing in it. It's just I'm using it for drawing, and you can see it's called anchor. So I know I'm using it just for anchor points. And I'm essentially just painting an effect here, right? And so I was just painting in here using a paintbrush. We'll come to it in a second. And then you can see right here I have damage anchor mask. So I'm grabbing all this information and painting down here. And that's what I'm putting into this layer. So you can see I'm just grabbing that information from down here. You see when it highlights. And I'm setting it to darken. So darken, if we look at this, is set as a min mode. So essentially if we look at this, any value that's less than white is going to start flattening the image of this right here, right? So you can see darken is if these values are darker than the other values. So on this layer, so in here, you can see that we have this black to white information. Anything that's darker than the values that are below this layer, so all this stuff from this image, anything in this image right here, so it normally looks like this, anything that's darker than all the information here is going to get replaced. So we just go through here, And you could think of this as a kind of like a ceiling node or min max node. So this would be setting a max. And so if I did that with a normal paint layer, you could just do that with the paint layer. I'll come here, I'll set this to max. So we'll go to min, sorry. And then I'm just going to go to paint layer or paintbrushes. I'm going to grab some kind of paintbrush. I'm going to set my flow low so I can kind of build it up. And you'll notice as I paint black in here, it starts to replace the information inside of it. And that obviously that's like way too high frequency, so that's creating some pretty gross looking surfaces, but that's what it's essentially doing. And the reason why I would use this instead of subtract, well, not really very many reasons. The one of the reasons I like is if I came in here and I set this as, let's take a look at this again. If I wanted to set this to a very specific height level, it's very easy for me to do. I can just go in here and I can do paint, and then let's go for something that's a little bit harder. And let's say I'm just going to set my value to 0.9 and just draw over here. And oops, I'm putting on the, yeah, we'll put it on here. That's actually fine. So I'll go ahead and darken, and then, darken, yes. So that looks fine. So let's go ahead and we'll come back in here and let's change that to a different value. So we'll go to 0.8. Okay, so that value is still probably not in my image at all. So as I go lower, there we go, should start to actually hit like a value or a level. So here we can see it's flattening that off, right? And you'll see as I draw, it's kind of like shaving that layer off. So it's essentially whatever I'm painting here is setting like a ceiling that the values can't go higher than. So you can use that to polish things down. So if I can come in here, go a little bit lower, I can have this effect here. Let's go ahead and choose basic soft, and I'm going to use flow map so we can just kind of like have that transition. So as the soft fall off, and I set the brush to have flow, which essentially just means it builds up the value over time. It doesn't do it right away. So then you can kind of really play around with that shaping as well. So then we can do, let's see, flow. And then I could, so anyways, that's kind of what I was doing here. So that's how the darken mode works. And so I just chose to do that in a separate layer, because then I can come out here and then I can, do all kinds of adjustments to it, right? So I can like blur, you can see I'm like blurring the information, blurring it twice actually. And I could do all kinds of other things. Like I do blur slope or warp, like maybe we want to add a warp effect to it. So add filter warp. To bring that source styling down, blur up a little bit, and then bigger intensity. And it doesn't look very good, but let's go ahead and just blur that to heck. There we go. That's just warping the information, so it's a little less perfect, I guess. Yeah, so I can do all kinds of adjustments to the damage shape that I'm drawing without affecting my diamond pattern. Because if I put all that stuff up here, then it would also be affecting my diamond pattern, which I don't want. So that's just affecting there. And then that's why I set this anchor point down here, is I'm actually reusing that anchor point. So this is just, normal. So this anchor point right here is just grabbing this, or this fill layer right here is just grabbing that anchor point. And I just use a levels adjustment. So it normally looks like this, and I'm just doing something like this and saying to multiply so that it's darkening the image below. And it's very subtle, but you can see there's like, this gets a little bit sharper in there. And the effect it has is I can kind of tighten up the insides, but let the outside be soft, right? So I can come in here and I can soften the outside while keeping that area down there a lot more crisp. Let's see, let's just bring that in a little bit.